Good morning and a very warm welcome to all our viewers to this current affairs talk show here on NTV News. Dear viewers, they say knowledge, education and the likes are drivers of this society and its components. However, what drives knowledge, what drives education, and there is a whole lot of effort in processing this whole thing from generation to management to processing. And at this time for Nepal, at this time when we are in a transitional phase, there are a lot of issues facing us, from development sector to politics to education to many aspects of social development. And at this time, we are very much pleased to have a talk with an expert who holds a broad range, expertise in a broad range of issues, focusing on education, knowledge, and sustainable development. So allow me now to welcome to this talk show an expert of wide range of domain from Germany, from the Ulm University, Professor Dr. Franz Josef Radermacher. If I got it right, Dr. Macher. Right, okay. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the talk show. To set the stage, Professor, if you could tell our viewers what brings you to Nepal this time.
I have a long connection to a number of people here, in particular to Raju Bahadur, which on the one side at the moment is the president of PEPSON.
Right.
And PEPSON is the organization of private schools in Nepal. But he is also a Rotarian, so he belongs to the global Rotary network, and I'm also a Rotarian. So we have another connection here. Also, I'm a member of the Club of Rome, and there is a Club of Rome chapter in Nepal, and Raju Bahadur is also connected to that. So we have a number of issues where we work together, and we do this now for 10-15 years. And as a consequence, I have been here for more or less 2 weeks, 3 years ago, and now I'm back, and in the meantime we worked on a number of issues.
That's quite interesting, Professor Dr. Josef. To our viewers, let me once again come back to you and let you know that Dr. Radermacher holds a faculty position for the databases and artificial intelligence at the University of Ulm, and at the same time, he's the director of the that is the Research Institute for Applied Knowledge Processing in Ulm, Germany. And he is a member of several national and international advisory board and is a recipient of a series of honors and awards. Professor Dr. Franz, we're indeed very much happy to have you here. Given the wide range of expertise you have, let me focus and come down to sustainable development and knowledge management. So in this spectrum, what is your perspective on Nepal?
Looking at Nepal, on the one side, I see a very interesting, very special country. It has its own culture, and it has an interesting but not easy location. It is landlocked between China and India, which are two giants. Now there is Nepal sitting with its own culture between those two giants, and it is landlocked, which economically is not the most easiest situation to be in. Now, at the same time, you have a very difficult political transition. You started from a monarchy, now you're a republic, you're working on a constitution, there is conflict over many issues, and you are more or less, hopefully, in the final phase to have your constitution and get things done. Now, within that not finalized political structure, of course, you have to deal with the economy. And the economy is a very important part of sustainability. You have to generate income. You have to generate income for your young people. You would not want so many to leave the country, so the economy is very important. But you will never have a success on the long run, and you will have no internal peace without social balance and inclusion. So social balance and inclusion are very important topics. And then you have to care for the environment. because this is a marvel in the Himalaya, and it should be one for your people, but also for tourists to come. So you have a hard job. You have to work on business side of life, the inclusion side of life, and on the environment. And of course, the education is very much at the center of all those issues, because without educated people, you will not make it with the economy, you will not make it with inclusion, and also not with the environment. So yes, there is an enormous numbers of challenges, but people work on it, and I'm happy to look into those processes.
Dr. Franz, you very rightly understand the present scenario of Nepal, but you see, at the moment, the major issue that Nepalese are facing is the state of transition, right? So it's a state of transition. We are transforming or changing to a new era politically and socially as well. So to the very issues that you have just stated at the moment, how does a transitional society deal with all these issues, a government or the society itself?
I think you very precise formulated the most important issue. It is fixing the system. You cannot work on a sustainable future as long as the system itself is not fixed. You need peace, and you need a clear regulation, and then you have to go along the rules, and all your institutions and your companies and your people have to work reliably within that frame. So the first and most important thing to do is to fix the frame under which you operate, and at the moment the key to that is the Constitution. And in the Constitution there is many issues that are debated. Federalism is one, and you have to make up your mind what you want, and you have to fix it. And only after you fixed it, you can really reliably work on the rest. Of course, also already now you have to work on the rest.
Right.
So we call that an operation on a living body.
Okay, interesting.
You have an operation on a living body. You have the ongoing processes, while at the same time you fix the Constitution and get reliable processes. That is very tough. You have to manage it. And the quality of your future depends on your success. There is many countries that didn't make it. If you don't make it, you will pay a high price. As you are reasonable people, I think you will make it. That is what you have to do before everything else can really start. Fix the system. Peacefully fix the system.
So that means, again, dialogue and constitution. Could be that's what we are talking about at the moment.
Yeah, and it means something more. Intelligent compromises.
Okay.
There is many situations in life where people could agree on a solution if they only had it. So it is a very important intellectual task to find an intelligent compromise. This is what a good politics is about, but also what, let's say, intelligent observers, people from science, advisors to politics, people from the economic field or NGOs can contribute. You need an intelligent compromise, then everybody can agree. And you need a lot of intelligence at that time.
Yeah, you very much pointed very right. There is an intellectual basis and then there is a system. But we are at the moment talking about a time when there is not a proper system intact and the intellectual body or the section is completely haywire. So what happens to the social dynamics at this point of time? What happens to the issue of sustainable development? Let's come specific to environment. You know, given when a system is not working, the intellectual body is pretty haywire, political turmoil is on. So in the issues of even environment, how does a society, how do we combat the social challenges that arise?
Okay, we now in the operation on the living body. Yeah? So while you fix the system, and I hope you make it, you already have plans to fix the environmental issue, and you urgently have to do that. And I remember when I was here 3 years ago, we went into the issue of having wonderful, clean rivers in the city, full of water, with animal life, a river you might even drink water from, with wonderful promenades to walk and have leisure, with trees. Yeah, this is a wonderful vision. And coming back after 3 years, everything looks the same. So at the first point you could say nothing happened, but it's not true. The people in politics and the administrators did a lot of work, and there is very reasonable plans to get it done. This is a process, can take 10, 15 years, but the planning is there, and there is quite advanced work on the Melanchi project to bring much more water into the valley, and we are thinking about working on the mountains with reforestation and with catchment system for water to even increase the water supply. So yes, I think things are in progress, and a lot was done, even that at the same time you are working on the constitution. So if you fix the constitution, you don't start by zero. Already a lot of things happened in planning, even in doing. But of course society then has to be very, very careful that it is really done. There is one problem in life is you have wonderful plans, but you never execute them. So once you have the plan, you need watchdogs. Every month see what is the progress, and stay determined to make it. And this you have to do, fixing the system and executing plans.
Dr. Franz, let me come to the context now. Having gotten your general ideas on the wide range of issues, you're here for a couple of, in a couple of issues, or a couple of programs that you come here for. One, I understand you is being a Rotarian. You're here to attend one of the programs of the Rotarians, specifically on water issues. So what do you bring along with you to talk upon, or what will you be putting on the floor regarding the issue that you're talking on?
To put things right, I'm here because of the water issue, and we debated that already, and there are also Rotarians involved, but also common concern Nepal. The other issue is the education with the private and public boarding school, the PEPSON, and Rotary is a worldwide organization, and it works on all kinds of topics, and it works on illumination of the soul, illumination of life, and in a lot of issues that, in a sense, you would say is service, service to people, service to your country. There is a very famous statement by the former US President John F. Kennedy. He said, "Don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Now the Rotarians would say what you can do for your country or the world. And so I'm very happy I'm a Rotarian, and as a Rotarian I'm in particular responsible in Germany for the issue of family planning and mother and child aid. And if you know that the biggest problem the world is facing is that we will add 3 billion people the next 40 years to the 7 billion already there. So this is one very important issue, and education and water and dealing with illiteracy and looking for children and empowering women are other issues that Rotary deals with. So I'm very happy I have a chance to see many Rotarians, but also in Chitwan to be part of a convention, a Rotary convention for the whole of Nepal.
So what will you be doing there? I understand you are one of the speakers in the program.
Yes, I'm one of the speakers, and I will say a little bit to the global challenges and what type of cooperation we need to deal with that challenges. And then I will, of course, describe what Rotary can do and does, and how Rotary contributes to enlightening the world. And of course, I will concentrate on the focus areas of Rotary International. And these are topics like education and water and family planning and more of that type. So it is it is always the sustainability issue, the social, the economic and the ecological issue. And of course education, and this is the bridge to Pepsin and what is going on in the public school sector is another important field.
I certainly will come with the Pepsin agenda later in our interview or in the talk. For now, you talked about the family issue, you talked about the women just a while ago. What is your understanding on the status of the Nepali women regarding the issue you just mentioned?
I have to be very careful because Nepal is a country with a lot of people, a lot of cultures, a lot of languages. What I see is that the situation of the women in any case seems to be much more advanced and balanced and fair than I see it in a lot of other countries. So there is countries where the situation of the women is much more restricted. I saw in many situations in the business fields, women in the television, women in education, women in NGOs, women, and what was very interesting, what I noticed, that in quite a number of cases, the women had a clear direction. They had a good understanding, they didn't talk too much, but they were determined and they acted. And I think the women are a power here, and the same I saw when I visited schools. So I visited schools and I visited sport events. And in all those occasions, there were at least as much young girls as there were boys. In whatever what had been talked or performed, the young girls had at least half the share. So I think there is an enormous power developing, and I think gender is not the main problem to solve in that country. I think you're already very far on gender in comparison to many other countries. So that is an asset and not a problem.
Okay, that's very much interesting and good to know that you have a feel-good picture of the status of women in Nepal. But even having said this, even if we look at the whole picture of the world, the issues facing the women are more or less common, right? So I think gone is the era that we take a flag and go ahead with feminism and all. So what is the way ahead now? What would be the next era for women be like on advocating for their rights?
We come now to a very difficult issue because I can of course look into the US, I can look into Europe, I can look into Germany, I can look into Scandinavia. What we see is women in all fields are advancing, but they pay a price and society pay a price, because if, let's say, major success somehow is coupled to economic performance, if economic performance happens within a system of competition, then it's very difficult to have children, in particular to have 1, 2, 3 children. Even more have children when you're not so old. So you have the children, let's say, with 25 or 28 or 30. And if you have these 2, 3 children and you want to compete, this is something that you almost cannot combine. So we see in many parts of the world that particular women that are economically successful, but not because they come from a family background with big assets. They successful because they're intelligent, educated, they give their competence. These women very often are alone. They have no family. Or if they have a family, they have no children. And so we have a situation that is unbalanced, in particular in direction of children. So we have problems creating families. In Germany, we are getting fewer people. We don't have enough reproduction from the own potential. So there is principal problems of a completely different type than fighting for rights.
Let me get back to Professor Dr. Franz Josef Radermacher from the Ulm University of Germany. Dear viewers, whatever you talk about, pick the issues, environment, economics, whatever. It all narrows down up to a basic fundamental point, that is education. Given a good education, everything they say can be conquered. Let us hear what the expert has to say. What is it, sir? Education, how important it is at the present context?
Education is really the door to everything, but one should not have illusions. Some people believe you have a good education and you have a good genes, so you are good in being educated, you will have a good job. That is not true. It is true the other way around. If you're not educated as a regular person, without assets and family and everything that is rich, you will not have a decent job. So you need the education to have a chance. The other point is, in economic structures of competition, the one that is more advanced usually wins on the other who is not. So in a sense, you're the loser if you are not able to defend yourself, and education is about defensibility. Then comes personality, to have a full life with all kind of options in science, in medicine, in arts, in theater, whatever. You have to be educated. You cannot know that you're good in playing piano if you're not trained in piano. You cannot know whether you are good in tennis if you're not trained in tennis. So education, in a sense, is at the core of everything and is of highest importance.
So having stated this, you certainly mean education does open doors and paves path for progression. Certainly it is a universal fact that is accepted worldwide. So what is your understanding on Nepal when it is facing or struggling with many other issues that we have already discussed in our earlier talks? How have you understood the scenario in Nepal?
The education issue in a country that is under development and has big internal questions to solve is always and everywhere on this globe is very difficult. In particular, it is not possible in that stage to have a public education system that has a high quality and reaches all people. It's the same like in health. It is a matter of cost and organizational power, and so it's very important in this phase of development that you have a strong private sector involvement. And that is what you have in Nepal. You have a very strong private sector in education, and at the moment you are also investing heavily in developing the public sector, and that is good. It is very important you develop the public sector, but it's also very good, and it is an asset, that you have a private sector that works and that contributes. And I think one of the most important issues you face at the moment is how to combine both so that both can develop and both can contribute. And this is something that is politically debated, and the actors on both sides, the private and the public, they are involved. So I think there is a reasonable chance to make use of that strong private education sector you have, but make it also an operative asset for developing the public education sector, and politics investing into that and thinking about public-private partnerships in that area. So I think this is a positive starting point.
So as an expert, if you could share, I'm sure Europe and the West have already, they're done with this phase of development or course. So could you share how Europe dealt with this phase in the past.
I could do this, and we did it, but there is two big differences. One is the solution of many problems in our countries involved wars. So we had World War I, we had World War II, and our wars were part of the development process, and you wouldn't want to do the same. So we have a different historical situation, which of course is coupled to us being one of the first industrial states. So we had advantages that we could use resources from all over the world to develop Germany. We had wars with our neighbors, which had enormous impact, but this is all things you wouldn't want to do. So in a sense you cannot learn from what we did, because we did it in a very special situation. You have to do your own thing, and again you have to do this as an operation on a living body. Again, it's the operation on the living body, because while we are talking here, information technology and artificial intelligence is developing strongly, and we have a saying that we are now in a race between education and technology, because many things that offered good jobs in the past are now done by machines. In artificial intelligence in 20 years, in the US and Germany, cars will go without driver. All the people driving cars will lose jobs. This is a very difficult future. So while we educate, technology makes education obsolete. And in this race, we always have to find a new place. Then one thing that is very much missing here is vocational training.
Exactly.
So we say now, don't forget, a human is not a computer. In a sense, in many places we cannot compete with computers, but we have a body, we have a soul. So educate brain, body and soul, and find jobs where machines cannot do it. This is jobs that involve brain and body, vocational things, do things, not be an MBA and wait for an international company to give you a job, or not wait for government to give you a job. No, create a job, but create a job that has also to do with doing. Use your hand. Vocational things should have a stronger role, which is also in a debate. And yes, it should be done. And there I see potentials, great potentials for Nepal.
Okay, so you're right now talking about incorporating formal and informal education, and then aiding it with technology, the artificial intelligence that you are talking about. That has been an issue of argument in Nepal for a long time. So let us come to, all in all these three components again come back to the resource pool that we're talking about. And when we talk about resource, there is a very important role of knowledge and knowledge management. So how do you think, because for now in Nepal, in the education sector, as you talked about the West, about how you managed, how you changed, and where you are at the moment. But for Nepal, we are still yet to, we've segregated, we've identified the needs, but we are yet to take a step ahead. And the major challenges is what we believe is the need of a resource pool, knowledge and knowledge management. So you as an expert, what is the major challenges in an underdeveloped society for knowledge management, creating that resource pool, which would be the driver, basically focusing on education sector? What is the challenges in knowledge management? I'm talking about the resource pool, which would ultimately drive the desired change. How do we generate? How do we manage? How do we process that?
The opportunity you have is called leapfrogging. So if you start from a back position, you can jump far.
Right.
So you can start with mobile telephone and you need no copper lines. So you can do the most advanced things immediately. And your people can learn the most advanced things immediately. So that is your advantage. Your disadvantage is, of course, the very difficult competitive situation, particularly for jobs. So your pool is young people, but it's not your only pool. You have other knowledge pool is your cultural heritage. Protecting your cultural heritage is protecting a knowledge pool which is your unique own knowledge pool. But coming back to the people, you educate the people, then you might find out you don't have jobs for all of them. Many go abroad. This, in a sense, is a little sad, but is not only sad, is also a potential. If the people go abroad and have reasonable jobs there, and they're still connected to their country, not only they send remittances, they build additional knowledge pools in Nepalese brains outside Nepal, which can be used in networked, coordinated activities. And it is interesting to see that a lot of the successes of China and of India dependent on a lot of Chinese being abroad, educated in business, having their own business, going back, creating business at home. This business connected business in China with business in the US, and the Nepalese brain force outside Nepal can be a very big asset in that. As soon as the economy in Nepal develops to a point that they can find business here. So yes, develop that pool, even if it leaves the country. But of course, try that it can stay in the country with new business of vocational type and business coupled to your cultural heritage, which is unique, is your heritage, or your environmental resources like the Himalaya, which is unique and is your resources. So in an intelligent solution, I think you have a good chance in an annual progress of quite a number of % of growth, coupled with inclusion and green orientation. You can do it.
Okay. You mean localizing the success stories or best practices, adapting it to based on the local needs and in local skills, I believe. That is wonderful to learn. I mean, there are many more things that we could learn from you, Professor Dr. Franz. Before we wrap up the interview, we learned that you also had an opportunity to meet with the President, Dr. Radermacher NTV. If you could share with us what had already happened and what were the words shared during that meeting.
Yeah, this was a wonderful moment. He invited some of the leading persons of PepSan together with keynote speakers, and we had a chance to talk to him. And he was particularly interested in what can be done in the education sector. And we even developed a written statement for him. So yes, he had a deep understanding of the needs. Also, the coupling of that issue with the federalism debate. Okay. To have a quality unified over all of Nepal, very important issue. And let me finish with one thing. What I liked most was his smile and the enormous peacefulness in his eyes. This is what I have kept in memory.
Okay, that's a wonderful note to end this interview with Dr. Radermacher. Indeed, you look like a pretty person who tries to incorporate a social and an emotional touch to your technical knowledges as well. We wish you all the luck, and it is wonderful having you here, and we wish you luck and a good stay here in Nepal. And
thank you very much, and wish the country and you all the best.
Thank you so much. And that we were in conversation with Professor Dr. Franz Josef Radermacher from the Ulm University, Germany. All in all, after this conversation, as Dr. Franz highlighted, it's for Nepal it's a time for Nepal where we have a lot of challenges, and along with that challenges comes opportunities wherein we can, with a set good ideal system complemented by an intellectual pool, we can succeed over any challenges and issues that come ahead of us. Ladies and dear viewers, it was wonderful to be in conversation with Dr. Radermacher here. We will get back to you with another set of contemporary issues in our next episode. Until then, thanks for being with us. Goodbye and namaste.